9 experienced hikers entered the frozen wilderness of the Soviet Union. None of them would ever return home. Weeks later, rescuers discovered their abandoned tent. What they found inside made no sense. The tent had been cut open from the inside. The hikers had fled into the darkness, barefoot, in temperatures colder than minus 30 degrees. More than 60 years later, nobody can fully explain why. The expedition. The year was 1959. The Cold War was at its peak. The Soviet Union was a nation obsessed with endurance and achievement. For young adventurers, extreme expeditions were a source of pride. One group was preparing for a journey that would become legendary. Their leader was Igor Dyatlov, a skilled engineering student, an experienced outdoorsman. Friends described him as intelligent, disciplined, and calm under pressure. The expedition included 8 other hikers, each highly trained, each capable of surviving harsh conditions. Most were university students, young people with bright futures ahead of them. Some had completed difficult mountain routes before. Others were respected athletes. This was not an amateur group, far from it. The route was classified as difficult, but well within their abilities. The hikers expected adventure, not danger. On January 23rd, they began their journey. The first stage involved a long train ride north. The group appeared excited, relaxed, confident. Many photographs from the trip still exist today. Those images would later become crucial clues. At the time, nobody could have imagined that. After the train journey came trucks. Then came the long trek on foot. The deeper they traveled, the harsher the landscape became. Powerful winds swept across the mountain slopes. Visibility often dropped to almost nothing. Yet the group remained in good spirits. They joked, took photographs, and documented their progress. One member eventually turned back due to illness. His name was Yuri Yudin. That decision saved his life. The remaining 9 hikers continued without him. As days passed, conditions worsened. The temperature plunged lower and lower. But nobody appeared concerned. They had faced difficult conditions before. Everything seemed under control. February 1st would be their final full day alive. Strong winds pushed the hikers off course. Visibility became extremely poor. The group found itself on the slope of a mountain known today as Kolitsyakal. The name translates roughly to Dead Mountain. Rather than descend into a forested area below, the group chose to camp on the exposed slope. Investigators would later debate that decision for decades. As darkness approached, the hikers finished setting up camp. Inside the tent, everything appeared normal. It would be the last normal moment of the expedition. Sometime during the night, something happened. Nobody knows exactly when. Nobody knows exactly why. But something forced 9 experienced hikers to abandon safety. Inside the tent were warm clothes, food, equipment, everything they needed to survive. Yet none of those items were taken. Whatever happened, happened fast. Fast enough to trigger panic. Fast enough to make experienced hikers do the unthinkable. Instead of using the entrance, they cut through the tent wall. From the inside. Then they fled into the night. Without proper boots, without heavy coats, without supplies. Outside, temperatures were deadly. Experts estimate it may have been colder than minus 30 degrees Celsius. In those conditions, Minutes can mean the difference between life and death. Yet all 9 left the tent anyway. And somehow, none of them ever made it back. The search begins. Days later, the hikers still had not returned. Families began asking questions. Then concern turned into fear. Search teams were assembled. Volunteers joined the effort. Soldiers participated. Aircraft scanned the region from above. The search area was enormous, and conditions remained brutal. Then came the first major discovery: the tent. The tent had been found, partially buried beneath drifting snow. At first glance, it looked abandoned. Then investigators stepped inside. What they found made no sense. Food remained untouched. Winter clothing remained behind. Blankets were still there. It looked as if the hikers planned to return. But they never did. Then investigators noticed the cuts. Several cuts, all made from the inside. The hikers had escaped through those openings, not through the entrance. Outside, another clue awaited investigators. Footprints. Lots of them. The prints moved away from the tent, toward a distant tree line. Some appeared barefoot. Others had only socks. A few wore a single boot. Nothing about the scene made sense. Then the searchers found the first bodies. Beneath a massive cedar tree, they discovered 2 victims lying in the snow, both dressed far too lightly for the freezing conditions. Neither wore proper winter boots. The cold had taken them before anyone arrived, and everything around them suggested a desperate final hour. Yet the tree itself told a different kind of story. Its trunk was scarred. Several branches had been snapped, some nearly 5 meters above the ground. Investigators looked up through the white silence and saw the marks clearly. Someone had climbed the cedar, perhaps in panic, perhaps searching for a way to signal someone in the darkness, or perhaps to find someone who had already vanished. A detective stood before the evidence board and tried to fit the pieces together. Socks in the snow, a lone boot, broken limbs high overhead. No trail that explained why the victims had stripped off their gear or why their steps had ended here under this one tree. Soon after, 3 more bodies were found. They lay between the cedar tree and the tent, as if the final attempt to return had failed only a short distance from safety. The route between the 2 points was uneven and cruel, marked with confusion instead of direction. The searchers followed the path in silence. Every new marker made the same question feel heavier. Had the group become separated in the dark? Had the cold driven them into panic? Or had one wrong decision at the cedar tree set everything in motion? By the time the wind settled over the clearing, the answer remained out of reach. The forest offered no witness, only the tree, the footprints, and the impossible details left behind in the snow. And in that stillness, the final clue seemed to wait above them, hidden in the damaged branches of the cedar, where someone had climbed in the last moments before the return attempt began. As if they had tried to return and failed. Among them was Igor Dyatlov, the man who had led the expedition, now frozen forever on the mountain. 5 victims had now been found, but 4 were still missing, and investigators had no idea where they were. Months passed. Winter slowly gave way to spring. As the ice melted, the final discovery was made. The remaining 4 bodies were found in a ravine. And this changed everything. Unlike the first victims, these hikers had suffered severe injuries. Several had broken ribs. Others had skull fractures. The damage was extraordinary. According to some experts, the force resembled a major car crash. Yet there were almost no external wounds. No major cuts, no major bruising. Just devastating internal trauma. One victim was missing her tongue. Another was missing soft tissue around the eyes. These details fueled decades of speculation. The Soviet investigation struggled to explain the evidence. Witnesses reported strange lights in the sky. Others claimed military activity occurred nearby. Rumors spread throughout the Soviet Union. Then the case was quietly closed. Over the decades, countless theories emerged. Some blamed an avalanche, a sudden wall of snow forcing the hikers to flee. Others argued the evidence didn't fully support that explanation. Some suspected secret military experiments, perhaps involving explosives or experimental weapons. Others looked toward natural phenomena. Infrasound, extreme weather, environmental panic. And of course, some theories became far stranger. Unknown creatures, paranormal forces, even extraterrestrials. But none of those theories have ever been proven. In recent years, researchers revisited the case using modern science. Some studies suggested a delayed avalanche may explain part of the mystery. But even today, not everyone agrees. Many questions remain unanswered. And perhaps they always will. More than 60 years later, the Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of the most mysterious cases in modern history. 9 experienced hikers entered the mountains. Only their questions came back. Some mysteries are solved. Some are forgotten. But some leave behind questions that never disappear. The Dyatlov Pass Incident remains one of those mysteries. What do you think really happened on that mountain? Let us know in the comments. And remember, every mystery leaves a clue. We follow them all. This is NoirClue.